All right, thank you. So, Akin, over to you.
Okay, thank you, Testimony, for the introduction. Hello, everyone. Just to give you a brief introduction, my name is Akin Kimwadi. I, let me just say, I'm a member of the CFO Africa team, even though unknown, but yeah. And we're going to be talking with Chikodi today. She would introduce herself shortly and tell us about her story. I mean, this session basically is about her introducing herself and telling us about her story. So we're going to be starting soon and handing over to her. And also, yeah. So Chikodi, welcome. And I think let's just set the stage. Chikodi, I've known you now for how many years now? This is the fifth year, more.
Many,
Yeah.
many years.
Yes,
Like
many
50 years.
So yeah, Chikodi and I were colleagues in KPMG, and it's just good where we can easily like share some of our knowledge and some of the learnings we gained across our career journey, and also share like mistakes and everything. I mean, so people can also learn from us and make better choices as they progress. So just tell us just tell us more about, like, just introduce yourself. Why you in, and what was it like growing up before? Let's know about your pre-career journey. Like, what was it like before career? Yeah.
Sure. I am Nigerian. I always like to start with that for some reason, especially because like when you're so far away from home, there's always like a good tendency to want to like let everybody know, yes, I'm Nigerian. I was born and brought up in Lagos. So like I've been in Lagos for the most part of my life. Except when I had to go to like university. So I studied at the University of Nigeria in Nsukka, and I studied banking and finance. So I was in Enugu for like 4 years. And I feel like throughout my university, I wasn't really sure about what I wanted to do after. In fact, now thinking back to it, I feel like I was a very myopic person when I was in the university because like I wasn't really planning ahead. I was just focused on the then and now, like, okay, I'm in first year, I'm in second year, I'm in third year, let me just pass my grades and like move on. And then sometime around like when I was in final year, I started thinking like, okay, so what do I want to do after? The answer did not come then. And then I went for NYSC after uni. So like I was deployed to a primary school, which is nice. So I taught. And then it was while I was actually doing my NYSC that I started actually thinking about what to do. And that was when I started researching. I think I signed up for like all the job sites you can think of, like Jobberman and Co. Like I still get their emails. So that was when I actually started thinking about what I wanted to do. And then I thought about like Big Four accounting. I started researching like KPMG, EY, Deloitte, PwC, and I started applying. Was it EY or Deloitte? I can't remember which one. I got invited for like one of their screening or something like that. I started that, it didn't go through. And then I got KPMG, started the process. And that was how, when I was recruiting for KPMG, I wasn't even really sure if I wanted to do audit, tax, or advisory, but eventually somehow I landed for tax. So there's no real passion that took me to tax. I just wanted to point that out now. But somehow I found myself in tax, and tax was fun. So that was how I started at KPMG Nigeria. This was in 2017. Tax was fun.
Okay.
Tax.
Okay. Before we get into the tax, you went to UNN.
Yeah.
What was secondary school like? Were you also in commercial or science? Were you science student?
I didn't want it to go that far back because that's many, many years ago. But yeah, I was in commercial class, and I schooled at Federal Government College Odobu boarding school. Nice. And yeah, I was in commercial class. So that was one thing I actually knew. I always knew I wanted to do commercial because like that was like my strength. So like
So what was
business
like your best
studies for that
subject
year.
then?
Business studies for sure. I love business studies, even though a lot of people hated it, but like I love business studies. And then going into like senior classes, I love like commerce and accounting. So that was how I knew. I always knew I wanted to do commercial. I knew science was not for me. I knew art was not for me, but I just was never sure of like career. And okay, taking it back to post uni and then KPMG. So I started out in the tax division at KPMG Nigeria in like 2017, and it was a good experience because like tax teaches you to be very very analytical. Like you work a lot with numbers, like you're
Oh,
analyzing things.
but before choosing tax,
Mhm.
like why tax? What was like
That's
your
that's why I tried to
pivotal
caveat it at the beginning.
reason?
I don't know what took me to tax, honestly. Like I feel like I just found myself there. So when I was recruiting for KPMG, for some reason, I thought audit was only people that studied accounting. So like I studied banking and finance. So like in my mind, I can't do audits because like I didn't do accounting. I wasn't sure what advisory meant then, to be very, very honest with you. So it's like tax, okay, maybe tax sounds like still numbers, but maybe it's not accounting. So like maybe that's something I can do. So for me, tax was like a
But
default.
it actually turned out that way. It wasn't like
Yeah,
accounting or
for sure.
yeah.
Yeah, I
So yeah.
agree. Yes.
Mm.
So that was actually how I found myself in tax. Did tax for almost 3 years. And like I was saying, like it teaches you to be very, very analytical. And you also start like learning how to manage clients. Like your client hates paying taxes. So like they're always jumping on the call on the phone with you to like talk through it. It's like it was a good experience, like learning how to manage clients' relationship and all. So it was fun. But when I was in my third year at KPMG, then let me backtrack a little bit. I've always wanted to do my master's, like, but I just was never sure of like how that process would go. I always like dreamed of coming to the US, but like in my mind then it was just like a dream. Like in my third year at KPMG, then I started actually thinking about it. And I actually got a prompt from like my then boyfriend, now husband. He wanted to move to the US. So I was like, maybe this is a good opportunity for me to actually explore masters. And so I started thinking about it. And at this point, I wasn't sure that investment banking was what I wanted to do. But I started like thinking about, masters. I did banking and finance in school, so I can do like a concentration in finance. So that was what I had like at the back of my mind when I was thinking of what schools to go to. And I eventually ended up applying to 3 schools, and I got into Ross, Michigan Ross. So I went to the University of Michigan for my MBA. I'm happy to talk about my MBA experience as much as it relates to this, but for the purpose of this, I'm just going to like skip through a lot of things. So
Please,
went into
please
Ross. This was
share.
like,
Mm.
yeah,
Yeah, share as you can, but
okay, for sure.
you're also learning from
Okay,
the journey as well.
okay, makes sense. So this was, I actually went to Ross like in the middle of COVID. So this was 2020 when everybody was on lockdown. That was when, for some reason, I decided to go do my MBA. So this was August of 2020. I started at Ross, and so when I started at Ross, so one thing that I feel like really helped me, even like before I started my application journey and all of that, was like just speaking to people. So I had testimony, of course, like was also a good resource for me. He connected me with someone else at KPMG that was recruiting for business school as well. And then like I started speaking with him, like let me know, because I didn't know anything about the process. Like I wasn't even sure what to do. And I think this is something that always happens a lot. Like you want to do something and you're just not sure who to reach out to or like where to get guidance from. So like I started speaking with them, and then that was when I understood in the first place that, oh, it's probably helpful to reach out to people that are already in the school to get some insights. So I started reaching out to people in the school. They helped me, like especially the African community, like they're really, at least from my own experience with Ross, they're really nice. So they helped me through my application process, like taught me like what to do and what not to do. And then we're able to like put together an application. It was around April, May 2020. And then I got the admission to Ross, which was nice. But I was still back in Nigeria then because everything was closed down, and we were not even sure when the embassy was going to open. But anyways, we started online. And that was when I started thinking about career path, and I started exploring investment banking. And investment banking for me was more natural because like I've always liked finance. I knew that finance was like it for me. And investment banking is a job that would challenge you. That's something I've always heard. And that's something that I feel like, oh, this would be nice to explore. You know, people always talk about how, first of all, on one side, the learning curve is very steep. Like the amount of professional development you get in a few, like in a short period of time is really, really amazing. And that's something I wanted. Then secondly, there are like a lot of exit opportunities with investment banking. Like if you come into investment banking and you feel like somewhere down the line, like investment banking is not it for you, there are a lot of places you can go to. Like your investment banking experience is going to be very relevant in a lot of fields. So that was another reason why I felt like this was going to be like something that I would really enjoy. And then investment banking is also something else that, I mean, on another side, it pays really well. And people don't like to talk about it, but like that's the truth. It pays really well. It sets you up. At least if you start your career without, maybe not start your career, but like starts the second part of your career, because it's like a second part of my career for me. It pays really well. It's like that's also something I wanted. So that was when I started exploring that, okay, maybe investment banking is what I'm going to start thinking about.
But did
And
you have any
then
other options you were looking at then?
yeah, for sure. I thought about corporate finance. So I was, again, me and being myopic. Finance was just everything I was considering. So like I thought about corporate finance as well. Like corporate
You think
finance is
about
really,
tax?
no, definitely not. The American tax system is not it. You don't want to, you don't want to get caught into that. I thought Nigerian tax was complicated. You need to come and see the US tax system. It's a nightmare.
You did
So
a
no,
bit of
I
it.
never considered tax. I never
Before.
considered tax. I never considered any accounting role. I was just thinking finance. If it wasn't going to be investment banking or corporate finance, it was going to be consulting, but also like consulting in like a finance role. So like, yeah, those are the only two I considered. And so that was when I started thinking about investment banking again. Again, this is where reaching out to people and talking to people comes in. So like say asking questions. We had a group then. We still have a group, anyways. This MBA in the US Nigerian group or something like that. And then people started sending links. Oh, there are a couple of banks that are recruiting early. Like try see this link, do this, do that. Things I probably would never have known on my own, but like just because I was part of that group, I saw the information, and so I started applying to a couple of banks. Like this was early before I even started the MBA program, but like I'd already gotten into the program, so I can put it on my resume that I'm going to attend the University of Michigan. And then I started using that to apply. And I was able to recruit early with JP Morgan and got an offer early. I'm happy to talk about that process as well. But that was my recruiting journey. And then so far, so like the way it worked and the way it typically works, especially if you're trying to break into investment banking through MBA, is that you're going to do an internship. So like the MBA is typically like 2 years. And then after your first year, you do an internship. So I did my internship at JP Morgan. That was summer of 2021. And then an internship is like 7 weeks-ish. It was in New York. That was the first time I went to New York from Michigan then. It was in New York. It was a good experience. That was still us coming out of COVID, like 2021. Some people were still working from home, but like we were in person, like we went to the office. Some people had their internship virtual, which was sad, but like for us, it was in person. And so I got an opportunity to like meet people in the group, like really, really like experience like what they're doing, got put on like some live deals. And at the end of my internship, I got a return offer, which is typically what you want to get. Like if you're thinking about going back, I got a return offer and then I
What
went
qualifies you
back,
for a
did
return
my,
offer?
say that again.
What qualifies you for a return offer?
So this is something someone told me, like I asked this exact question when I was recruiting and someone was like, to be honest, like the fact that they extended you an internship offer means that they want you to stay. Like the recruiting, and I'm going to talk about the recruiting process. The recruiting process is a very long, tedious process, to be honest. And banks deploy a lot of resources. Even recruiting for internship now, they deploy a lot of resources into that. Like in their mind, they want their interns to convert to full-time. So like what this person said was, the offer is yours to lose. Like you don't have to put in so much effort to get it, but like you can lose it if you don't put in enough effort, if that makes sense. Like, let me try and explain. Everybody knows you're learning. For the 6 weeks period that you're doing your intern, everybody understands that you're learning. Everybody knows that even at the end of this internship, you're not going to know a lot of things. But like what people appreciate is, are you a person that looks like you're willing to learn? So like you're coming in, you don't know what you're doing, but like, are you coming off as someone that is actually like willing to learn? Oh, you don't understand this process. You don't just like leave it and be like, oh, I don't know this. Like, that's it. I don't know it. But like, are you asking questions? Do you have this like positive can-do attitude? Because the job gets hard sometimes, like the long hours. Sometimes it demands a lot from you. Are you that kind of person that would just be like positive about the whole situation? Like if you have to work late into the night, like you're not, everybody complains. Like we complain to each other on the floor, like that's fine. But like, are you just someone that like tries to see the bright side of things? Like, are you someone that people would enjoy working with? Those are like some of the things that people look out for. So like, it doesn't take too much to get a return offer. And if you're going to lose, like people that I've seen in my experience that don't get return offers are people that, like, everybody is sloppy at the job, but like people that they just don't want to take ownership. Like, oh, you did this thing wrong, and like you're giving someone feedback, and maybe they're just coming, like just have like this back and forth. You're telling someone like, oh, this thing that you did was wrong, and they just get all defensive and like trying to like blame someone or something like that. Like you have to be like an asshole typically to not get a return offer for the most part. So like it's I would say in my experience, I think it's a lot easier to get the offer than it is to lose it. So that's a very long-winded answer of like how you get a
Is
return offer.
getting an internship.
Getting an internship is the hard part, because like I said, that's how they screen, and like that's how they try to like get people that they want. So I'll talk about my own experience. My experience was slightly different, but I'll first talk about like the regular process. So the way recruiting work, and it was a good thing because like I was part of the recruiting team last year. So like I learned a lot about how it worked. And the way it works for MBA specifically now, for like when you're recruiting as an associate from like an MBA program, you typically do it through your school. So every school has like a finance club or like an investment banking club or whatever it is. Like there's a club of some sort that helps you to prepare for recruiting. And then every bank, like JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, all of them, they have school teams. So like for me, for example, I'm part of like the recruiting team from Michigan. So like if we're trying to recruit from Michigan, like I'm part of the team that like helps do that because I went to Michigan. So every bank has like school teams. Now there's some banks where we don't have, say, a school representation in the group. Like say for my group, for example, we don't have, who can I use? We don't have someone from Stanford or someone from Yale in my group specifically, not like the bank general, but like in my group. So what we do is we assign people from other schools to like be part of that school team. So in my group, you have someone that is specifically assigned for like applicants coming from Yale, applicants coming from Stanford. So that's how it works. It typically works through school teams. Now, there are a lot of rounds. And first off, it starts from your school. So your school starts the whole vetting process. So like in the finance club, they start prepping you for like interviews, for like coffee chats is the biggest part of. So investment banking is a lot about networking. Coffee chat is the biggest part of it. Like at the start of the process, what happens is that banks go to schools and they do something they call like a corporate presentation or a super day. So like this is just when like banks just send like senior and junior bankers to schools and they just make a presentation about, oh, we're JP Morgan and like this is why we're amazing and this is why we want you to join us, things like that. Just like talking about like how the bank has been over the years, like just trying to like court you to apply. That's always the first step. Like banks go into schools and like talk to them. And then at each of these sessions, we have like networking sessions at the end where like after like the whole presentation, you have banks interact with like the students. And at that point, that's when people start to take notes of like their interactions with people. So we always have like these spreadsheets in the office. The applicants never get to see them. In fact, when I joined, I started looking for the one they used for my set and I couldn't find it. Like they find a way to hide it from you when you come in. But we always have like a spreadsheet where people put in like their feedback. So you have everybody's name, like all of the students, prospective students, and then anybody that interacts with a student puts in like a feedback. Oh, I talked to this person and I think he's very nice. I think he has like qualities that I think would make sense for him to join the group. Like, and we also give scores like on a rate of 1 to 10. How would you rate this person? And then people start rating. Oh, I'll give this person a 7. I'll give this person a 5 because they didn't put in enough effort. I'll give this person a 10 or whatever. So that's like the first step. People start to interact with you when they come into your school to like discuss with you, and then they start providing feedback. So like we're collating all this feedback.
Even from discussions, conversations,
Even
they're
from
already rating.
yes, it is that serious. Even from conversations. It's like that's the first step when the banks come to you. Then it becomes after they've tried to like, we like you, we want to get you, then it now becomes you flying into New York for coffee chats. Now, COVID helped with something. A lot of coffee chat now happened virtually. Typically in the past, before my sets, people always fly into New York like every week to meet with bankers because like you're speaking with bankers from like different banks. It's not just one bank. So like it's easier to just maybe fly in on a Thursday and then spend all of your Friday just meeting people at different banks and then go back over the weekend. So that's after the first step. The next step is this coffee chat where like they pair you with people within the bank. You first start from like the first year associate, like people that just joined. We're like, so for my set, like last year, we were like the vetting process. Like we speak with everybody that is interested, and then we start to cut people. It's like we have conversations with people, we have coffee chats with them, and then still on that tracker, that's where you're like noting and your score and everything. Like the tracker is well built that it's averaging the score. So like you can see at a glance who is performing high and who is performing low. So we start to have this conversation with them. If you think your conversation with someone went well, then you can pass them on to like someone above you, and then that's how they keep going. But like at some point, you have to start cutting people. So like you see, oh, someone has a very low score. Like I don't think this person is going to be a good fit. So the plan is just don't put the person on an invite. If you're sending an invite to the school, like just let the school know that this person is not more part of the recruiting process. And then banks always come up with like a short list. So after coffee chats, after you've had conversations with people, they come up with a short list. So like that's like the list of people they're going forward with, and they send it to the school. So like it's public. Everybody knows that this is the only amount of people that this particular bank is going to continue with in the process. And then they do another super day where they invite you. Now, so the first time was them coming to your school. Now they invite you to the office. They host you, like you also get to like meet more people. They have interactions with you. It's still part of like the process of like vetting you to be sure, is this someone I want to work with? And then that's part of the process. And then after this new super day of you coming in, for JP Morgan, a couple of banks don't do it, but like for JP Morgan, we also do something we call like a case study. It's like we put people in groups and then you have like a full-time banker with them and you walk them through case studies and like just see how they don't get the questions in advance, like just see how they think on their feet. So like, for example, like when we were doing for Michigan, we had like a case study on like Elon Musk acquiring Twitter. Like, what do you think about it? Like, do you think that was when before the transaction went through? Do you think that transaction will go through? What do you think are like some of the things that would make it go through? What do you think are like some of the things that won't? Do you think this is a good idea for Twitter? Like just general things. Just there's no right or wrong answer. Like it's just to see how you're thinking, and if you're able to like support your answers with like just have like some support to like your answers that you're giving, and not just saying yes or no, but like this is why I think so. It may be wrong. Like someone might listen to you and be like, no, this person just said rubbish. But like the fact that you're able to say and you're able to say confidently is something that people appreciate. So we do that case study, and that's also another way to cut people. And then you eventually end up with like a handful of people that you invite to interviews. And those people interview with like senior people, and that's eventually when we decide who we're going to extend offers to. So it's a very long process. It's a stressful process, but it comes and goes really quickly. Investment banking is one of the fastest recruitment process in like the MBA. It's like you start your MBA program sometime around August, September, July, depending on your school. You're done with investment banking recruiting by December, January for a lot of people. But it's just like your consulting friends, for example, they're still recruiting into like March or something. So investment banking is it's hard, it's stressful to recruit, but it happens really quickly. So like you're done relatively quick. So that's a typical recruiting process. But like my own process, I can talk about my own process. I did early recruiting. And again, this was like something I saw on like just a random WhatsApp group that I joined, like in Nigerian MBAs at US or something like that. Just dropped links of like some banks that were recruiting early. So I saw JP Morgan. I was like, oh, nice, let me recruit. I applied for JP Morgan. I applied for, I think, Credit Suisse and Morgan Stanley, yeah. And then it was only JP Morgan that like actually like continued putting me through the process. Like this was like July before I even started my MBA program started in August, but like I already had the admission, but like I was still, first of all, I was still back in Nigeria, and then I had not even started the program at all. So JP Morgan invited me for a super day with interviews, and that was when I was like, oh my God, this is really happening for real. So what I did was I reached out to my school. So like every school has like a career development office or something like that. I reached out to my and let me backtrack a little bit. MBA program is very different from masters in the sense that first of all, well, it's very expensive. That's one thing. But like because of that, you get a lot of perks. So like they they are very invested in your success. Like they want you to get a job because it's part of the stats that business schools track, like how many of their students are able to get a job immediately after business school. So they dedicate people to help you with like recruiting at every school. This is across all business schools. Like you're definitely going to have like a dedicated career development office. Like this is something I was like, I mean, I feel like Nigeria should probably copy this because they didn't do a lot for me when I was in UNN. Not to shit on UNN, but I think it's all schools. They don't do a lot of like intentionally preparing people for careers. But this is something that business schools in the US do. So I reached out to my career development officers, like, I got this invite from JP Morgan. I don't even know where to start from. Like, I need to talk to someone. So I jumped on a call with our like career development officer. The guy, he was in charge of like finance. Like he talked me through, he was an ex-banker as well. So he talked me through his experience, like gave me like some questions that people would probably ask. And then, oh, there is this book. It's not a book, but like it's just a PDF out there, 400 investment banking questions. If you haven't looked through it and you're really serious about investment banking, I would recommend getting it. Like you can just Google 400 investment banking questions. That's a very good prep. That was the resource he had shared with me then. Like, just look through this. Like, it has like some questions and like answers, like typical questions that people ask for during
Sorry,
interviews.
Chikodi,
Mhm.
I want to backtrack a bit.
For
Some
sure.
people here and do not really know what investment banking is about. So
Got
just
it.
give us
Okay.
a brief.
Yes, investment banking. Okay, let's see. Good description. Okay, one way I've seen people try to like explain it for people that have like zero idea is investment banking is to companies the way a real estate agent is to individuals. So you know how you want to buy a house, for example, you meet a real estate agent and then they're able to like look through like different options. Okay, which one do I think will be good for you? And then you find one. And then you're like, oh, I don't even have the money to buy this house, and they can set you up with like financing and mortgage, something like that. So that's one part of investment banking. So investment banking also depends on what type of bank. So there's a difference between there's a bulge brackets category of banks and then there's boutique banks. So let me talk about bulge brackets for a start. Bulge bracket banks like the big banks like JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, that have a lot of like different departments within investment banking. So they do like M&A, that's mergers and acquisitions, like a company that's looking to like buy another company. They're there as advisors. So like, first of all, help them look through like options if they don't have options, or if they have options, look at that option that they're looking at and then try to value the company like, oh, this is what we think would be a good amount to buy this company. Or these are like some reasons why we don't think you should buy this company or at this time, or like strategic reasons, for example, like it's probably not going to be a good fit for your company. So I just help the company through the process of trying to acquire another company. And then a lot of bulge bracket banks have like commercial banking arm. So like they have money. So they also set up financing. So say a company, they're helping this company to buy another company and the company doesn't even have money to buy. You can have like a JP Morgan, for example, say, I'm going to loan you the money to buy this company. So that's not doing two jobs. Like you're doing the M&A, mergers and acquisition jobs. So you're getting fees for that. And then you're also doing like debt financing, and then you're getting fees for that as well. So that's one part. That's the biggest part of investment banking, actually, mergers and acquisition. And that's like the only thing boutique banks do. A lot of boutique banks only do, you can just say a bank just set up to only do mergers and acquisition. That's all they do. Now, apart from mergers and acquisitions, some other things that, oh, and it goes two ways. It's either a company is looking to buy another company or they're looking to be bought. So like you're also advising them, that's buy side and sell side. Buy side is like if they want to buy, so you're advising them on like which targets are probably good for them to get. And then sell side is if they want to sell themselves, they're looking for like who would sell them, like for a lot of reasons, or the owner is probably like getting old, they can't concentrate on the business anymore, they don't know who to pass it down to, so they're interested in selling the business. You come in and then help look for potential buyers that would make sense for them and then help them through that process. Like mergers and acquisition is like one big part. Another part of investment banking is equity capital markets. So you see private companies that want to go public. They've been set up as like a private company, and now they want to start trading on like the stock exchange. They want to like invite more shareholders, like open up their cap table to like the public. So that's where investment banking also comes in. So like you help them through the process of like drafting like their prospectus, like looking for institutional investors that would always be like the first set of investors in like a private company before helping them like go public, and then monitoring their trading and all of that. So that's equity capital markets. And then there's also debt capital markets for like companies that are looking to raise debt, but like not regular debt, like regular loan that someone can just go to a commercial bank to do. No, this is like a different. So you have publicly traded debts where it's like a company that's looking to raise billions of dollars. They can't just get that as like a direct loan from like a commercial bank. So they come to an investment bank, and then it becomes a debt that's publicly traded. And that's where investment banking also comes in. So like these are the three main subsets of investment banking: mergers and acquisition, equity capital market, and then debt capital markets. So that's in a nutshell what investment banking is. Sorry, I should have started with this. For some reason, I didn't think about the fact that like people don't actually know. So like, yeah, that's it. It's core finance, but you still have like some accounting aspects because like you did a lot with financial statements. So, like you definitely need like some accounting background. And again, like anybody can do investment banking. Like I've seen people come from people that studied healthcare, people that studied science. Like as long as you're willing to learn, business school is definitely going to help you. They will teach you like if I when you start business, you start from core finance again, core accounting again, like you start learning debit and credit all over from the beginning. They teach you and they help you prep. So like you need some sort of like core accounting knowledge and core finance knowledge, like make it in investment banking. But like, yes, that is investment banking.
Okay, thank
That
you.
helps.
So
Cool.
back to your journey,
My long story. Okay. Yeah, so that was how I actually recruited. So I had reached out to like my career development officer, like he helped me prep, and then he was able to like connect me with a couple of Michigan Ross alums that were at JP Morgan. He connected me with two of them. They jumped. And one thing I really, really appreciated is like the alumni body is really, really strong. Like you went to Harvard, for example, and then you see someone else that went to Harvard. Like there's just this kind of connection that people feel towards someone that went to their school, that they're always willing to help. So when you connected me with these guys, like they didn't know me from anywhere, but like just because I'm also going to Michigan, they were able to like jump on calls with me, help me prep, like help me craft a why JP Morgan story. And that was what I used for my interview. And then I was able to get an offer. So now I've talked about two different types of recruiting, the regular process and then my sort of accelerated process. And so that is recruiting in a nutshell for investment banking. And then I came in, did the internship. It was nice. It was fun. And then I got a return offer and joined again in 2021. So like I've been at JP Morgan for like 8 months, I think. No, not 8 months, 10 months. This is May. 11 months. Sorry, I joined in June of last year. So like almost a year now. And there have been up and downs, but it's generally been a good experience.
So generally better than your tax experience.
In some sense, yes. There are some things about tax that I miss. The hours are definitely longer in investment banking, but definitely better in the sense that I think I'm learning a lot, like in investment banking compared to like how I was learning in tax. Investment banking exposes you to like a lot of things. Like even I'm still touching on like some tax like issues in investment banking, but like it's wide. It's a breadth of like experience. So I would say like generally yes, it is better.
So if we're looking at like getting into investment banking, what would be like I know you mentioned something about even being in health, coming from healthcare, you could get into investment banking, but what would you call like top traits or qualities that someone should have getting into investment banking sector?
Yeah, for sure. Like first off, you definitely need to have like some basic accounting and finance like that. Like that's for sure. No matter where you're coming from, even if you're coming from like a science background, like it's really not an excuse. Like people expect that you should have some sort of knowledge, at least like know something. That's the first part. And then a lot of it is soft skills, so like communication, like how are you talking to people, like things like that. Like people definitely look out for that because you're going to have a lot of interactions with clients, and they just want to be sure that you're someone that can sell the business, like sell the bank. You're going to be a good representation of the bank. So like communication is super important. Um, Another thing is, I think I briefly mentioned this, but like there's no sugarcoating it. Like the hours are long, so people want someone that just comes in with like a can do, like positive mindset. Like you know what, things are hard, whatever, but like we're just going to do this. We're going to get through it. Like
What would
someone
you
that is
call
like
long?
that diligent.
Sorry,
What would I
like
call long?
yes.
That's a very good question. It
Mm.
depends. So it depends a lot on like what you're working on. Like I've had good days. So let me start with the good days. I've had good days where like I go into the office. Oh, and you don't have to go into the office by 8 a.m. Like typically they tell us to just be in the office by 9:30. So 9:30 a.m. is our official start time. I've had good days where I go into the office by 9:30 a.m. and I'm out of the office by 6 p.m. That's a very good day for me. But there have been some days, some nights that you see yourself at the office at like 3 a.m., 4 a.m., like it happens. So there are some long hours like that. There are times that like for a whole week, like you're just leaving the office at like 2 a.m. every day, you're leaving the office at like 3 a.m. every day, and you still have to be back in by like 9:30. Although people are typically understand, it's like if you pull a very, very late night, like it's fine if you come in at 10, it's fine if you come in at 11, like nobody's really going to like look at you, like ask questions, as long as you're doing your job. So like there are some long hours where you have to work like really, really late into the night. There's some times where you have to like work on weekends. It's like it happens. So that's the long hours. And there's so they always say, we're in a client service roles, like everything is dictated by the client. If the client just wakes up tomorrow and be like, oh, I want you to send me this analysis and I want you to send it to me by tomorrow. Like you have to make it happen, even if you have to like stay in the office all night to get it done, you have to do it. So that's where the long hours come in. So you definitely need to come up at that across as a person that just like has this positive mindset, at least for recruiting. Like when you come in, when you join, we all complain to each other. Everybody like complains and talks about it. But like at the start, when you're recruiting, like you don't want to be that person that like is complaining, or like during your internship, like you don't want to be that person that like is complaining about long hours. Like wait until you become full-time, then complain all you want. It's harder for them to sack you at that point when you're full-time than it is for them to not extend you an internship, a full-time offer after internship. So I definitely like that's one trait. Like you just have to have that positive mindset. Then you also have to come across as someone that is very curious and like willing to learn, because like there is a lot you have to learn in a very short amount of time. And people just want to know that you are this person that at least will be willing to learn. You may not learn it all, but like, are you willing to like put in the efforts to like try to learn? Are you asking questions? Are you asking the right questions? These are things that people actually look out for. And then one other super important thing when you're recruiting is people like people that have done their homework. So like you're not coming in and you're asking questions like why, like just a random question that you probably could have found on the website about JP Morgan, like asking who is the CEO of JP Morgan, or like something like that. That people want to see that you've put in an effort. They ask you like, why are you recruiting for JP Morgan, for example? Like you have a very good enough reason that shows that you've actually like done your research. So that's another thing. I think that's really, so like I touched on like finance and accounting back knowledge, being able to like just be diligent and like just being able to like put up with the long hours, being curious and just being diligent generally, and communication, of course. I think that's really all you need to break into investment banking. And networking is super super important. Like you definitely need to talk to people. You definitely, like, that's something that was very new for me. Like I've never done coffee chats before. I started recruiting for investment banking, but like it's something you need to get very good at, like being able to like jump on calls, talk to someone for like 30 seconds, 30 minutes rather, and like being able to like come out of that conversation saying, yes, I made a good impression with this person. Because like I mentioned, there's a tracker somewhere with your name on it and people are scoring you. So like that's definitely something that you want to have at the back of your mind.
Okay, thank you. So if you were to look back at your career, like so far from KPMG into JP Morgan, what would you see as being your career highlights just altogether?
Yeah. That's a very, very good question. At KPMG, I feel like getting in the first place was a highlight for me because like it wasn't a natural process for me, like just recruiting for KPMG because like I mentioned, I was very myopic in university. I didn't even know what Big Four was. This is me. It's not like a UNN thing. It was just me. I didn't know. So like I started the process really late of like trying to like research like, okay, what does KPMG do? What does Deloitte do? What does EY do? And things like that. So like I think getting in was the first highlight. Um, what would I say was another highlight? I guess I can say like getting promoted, like just being a semi, and you probably know this experience a lot. Like just when you get to a position where you feel like you're now taking charge of processes, like my first year at KPMG, I was like an essay, like just learning things. I didn't even know what I was doing, but like just going through like the whole process of like getting guidance from someone, and then you become an ESA, which is like okay, now you're in a position where you know something, but like you probably still need a lot of guidance. But I feel like when I became a semi was when, like a semi-senior, that's like your third year in KPMG for people that are not aware of like the way it works. Like I say the first year, second year is ESC, and then semi like your third year at KPMG. That was when I felt like I was actually like taking charge of like, okay, like I'm working on these clients, like I know what I'm doing, like I can talk to the clients, like explain things, and then I'm working directly with like managers. Like at that point, I felt like I was taking charge of my career. So I would say definitely like that's probably like my highlights at KPMG. At JP Morgan, getting a return offer was, for some reason, I don't know, I was worried about it. Like I was super, super worried about it. Like getting a return offer was definitely big for me. I definitely like enjoyed it and like just enjoyed the experience of like just knowing that like everything paid off. So that was huge. And then when I came back full time, so that one thing I did mention was when you come back full time as an MBA associate, your first 6 months, they call it like your stub year. So it doesn't get counted as like a first year. Like you join like June or July, depending on the bank. And then for that first couple of months until December, they call it a stub period. It's kind of like the way we say probation in Nigeria, but like it's not like a probation, but like it's just a stub period where you're not a first year associate yet, you're just a stub associate. And then the next year in January, they promote you. For most people, it comes generally, but like there might be a couple of occasions where they ask someone to like repeat that. So like getting that first year associate promotion was also something that I feel like was huge for me. And then I've got to work on a couple of very interesting deals. I can't talk about them now because none of them have gone live yet. So fortunately, I can't mention it, but like I'm working on a very huge IPO process right now. Like it's a very big like company, like retail company. And like just being part of that process of like a company that like is very well known, and like when this breaks the news, like you're just going to be very proud of like, yeah, I worked on this deal. It's something that I feel like is a
MBA route. Is it possible to still get into organ from Nigeria or any investment bank? Like,
yeah, that's a good question. To be honest, like the MBA route is the very typical route. So if you want to come in from Nigeria, you have to have worked at an investment bank. So like it's the only way they try to recruit is it's either they're recruiting directly from schools, from like MBA schools, or they're recruiting from another investment bank. And it doesn't matter where the investment bank is. Like we have JP Morgan in Nigeria. Do we have Barclays in Nigeria? I think so. I think we do. I'm not sure, but like we have investment banks in Nigeria. So like if you are working in an investment bank in Nigeria and then you want to apply for another investment bank anywhere else, you still go through a process. It probably might not be as typical as a process. It probably might not be as typical as someone that went through like the MBA journey, but like you still have a process to go through, but you can break in with that. It gets a lot harder if you're coming from a non-investment banking field. It's I have not personally, I have not seen like someone just come from like Big Four, for example, and like just recruit for investment. I've not seen. They probably might be maybe just a few people, but like it's not the typical route. So like the short and long answer to that is that MBA is the typical route. That's your best bet, if I can say that, to like breaking into investment banking. Like that's because banks go to these schools to recruit. Like if you're not coming from an MBA program, you have to be the one to like go to the bank to start seeing who can I speak with at the bank. And it's a lot about like networking. So like if you're not in a position where they can come to you, like the way they will come to you if you're at a business school, then it's now on you to like start looking for relationship, looking for connection, people that you can talk to like get, which may be harder compared to like someone that is just at a business school and then you just have the banks coming to meet them. It's like, yeah, we want to recruit you, if that makes sense.
yeah, it does. It does. So basically, have IB experience if you're coming from outside an MBA school. But if you're coming from a regular master's, is that also achievable?
It is. It is. It's also falls into it's kind of harder because they don't naturally recruit just like probably already masters in finance, for example. They don't naturally like go into those programs to recruit. So it's also going to be a situation where you have to be the one reaching out to people and then hoping that like someone and like your school is going to be that's your best resource. Like even if you're doing like a master's in finance, your school probably has like a business program. Even if they don't, your school probably has like alums in banks that's got there somehow, one way or the other. It's like reaching out to them, asking them for guidance. If there's someone they can connect you with, that you can talk to within the group, is that going to be like a good way for you to break in with masters? But like just going back to what I said, like it's just going to be a lot more work for you because like you're in a situation where you're the one now going to the banks and trying to like prove to them that they should like take a look at you, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask this question. What's like the X factor for an MBA? Because now it seems there's like a there's a difference between doing like a master's and doing an MBA. So what's like the X factor? So if you're looking at doing an MBA, what's like that reason that will compel one to go for an MBA?
The MBA gives you like a breadth of knowledge. Like MBA, the good thing about MBA is that MBA is not restricted to finance. Like it's masters in business administration generally. So like you learn finance, you learn accounting, you learn like even learn why is this escaping me now? Like if you want to go into consulting, for example, you learn that, you learn economics, you learn strategy, you learn like they expose you to a lot of like different kind of like courses that would help you to like just break into anywhere. It's like you can do an MBA, for example, and like go on to just be a CFO somewhere. You can do an MBA and go on to just be a CEO somewhere. You can do an MBA and just go and be a general manager somewhere. It's like they try to prepare you for any corporate role. You're going into sustainability, for example. We have courses that like help you through like learn about sustainability. You're going into like strategy. We have courses that helps you with that. You're good, like no matter the field you think you're good, except fields that are very, very niche. Like if you want to go into, for example, healthcare, you don't need to come and do an MBA for that. Or if you want to go into IT or programming, you don't need an MBA for that. But like core general managing like director fields, or like core accounting fields, core finance field, they try to like prepare you for any of that. So if you can go into like any corporate roles, like that's the difference between if you're doing a master's in finance, they focus on just finance, like everything you're learning is finance, finance, finance. Probably might not be learning things on like strategy. Like nobody's going to teach you strategy when you're doing like MSc in finance. Nobody's probably going to teach you about anything about like sustainability, for example. So like that's the difference. Like MBA is broader, and that's why it's typically 2 years because like there's just a lot to learn. And yeah, so like that's what I would say is the major difference between like MBA and MSc.
Thank you. One thing I picked from what you just explained now, I mean, if you're going into the investment banking field, and generally should apply to almost any field, you need to just know beyond the core of that career. Like, so if you're going into investment banking and it's about finance, you should still have a broader knowledge beyond finance. So understanding, like I said, strategy, understanding industries. We are dealing with a retail company. You need to understand how retail works. You need to understand, a number of things, which gives you a broader experience beyond just understanding what maybe a financial statement or profit or loss is. You just need to know beyond the core of that program or core of that career path you're deciding to choose. So, and an MBA helps with that as well, just helping to broaden that knowledge to give you diversified learning experience in terms of growing your knowledge or getting into any field that you want to get into. So yeah, I think that's just quite helpful with that.
Yeah.
I would just throw and I would just thank you, but just throw it to the audience now, to the team, and if anyone has a question, I'm sure some people have been waiting for the question segment. So we're going to be taking some questions now. And if you do, you can raise your hand. I think Zoom has that, so we can make it orderly. Do we have questions? Okay. Not seeing any yet. Okay, Emmanuel. Yes, you can take you. Can they unmute? Faith. Okay, yes, so. We can't
Hi
hear you.
everyone. Can you
Okay.
hear me?
Good evening.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
All right. Thank you so much, Chikodi. It's been an interesting session so far, and this session is really pertinent to me because this is a field I'm looking to build my career in, and I've commenced with various things I need to know as a starter for this kind of role. So for the recruitment to these top investment banks abroad, I got to know about their recruitment process while I was still in school, majorly in my third year. And since then, I've been trying to get in, although it's not been, I've not been able to pull through successfully to the likes of BOA, Goldman Sachs. I've not really applied to JP Morgan. But recently, I did apply to an off-cycle internship with them for an investment banking / corporate banking role, specifically within the markets division. And I've been invited for an high-view interview. I've done an high-view interview with Bank of America, but then there is just this thing that after the interview, you most likely will get a regret mail. I really do not know why. I would like to understand what the back end is. I don't know for JP Morgan because this is my first time trying to really get in, although I've done an interview with them, but that was for a different role entirely. So I don't know if you know the process through which they recruit. Using this from your application, you have to do your IRV almost immediately. You submit your application, they invite you over for an IRV interview, which is a recorded on-demand video interview where they ask you a series of questions just to give more light to or life to your CV rather. And then after that, I think they have other processes where they invite you over for a phone interview. You have an assessment center before you finally get an offer. So what would you say is the process? If you really don't know, I don't know if you know about that, the IRV interview for JP Morgan, what am I supposed to know? What am I supposed to prepare for? And generally cutting across all that processes if I do make it past the IRV, because I've gotten several reminders. I haven't just taken it now because I'm trying to be careful to make sure I'm quite prepared for the interview before actually taking it. So what would you say I need to do to prepare enough for the IRV and other recruitment processes generally? Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Good question. And I did an IRV, so I can explain how that process is. So one thing you should know is that a lot of higher views don't get watched by actual human beings. So that's one thing you should have at the back of your mind. So a lot of them is just AI that evaluates them. So with that in mind, like some of the things, some of the tips and tricks that help. And first of all, like one thing that always helps is go on Reddit, go on Quora, go on, like just online. There are a lot of people that just like share their experience and even like put like past like questions that they got asked. A lot of the questions get recycled. So like you can, for example, you're recruiting for Goldman Sachs, you're recruiting for JP Morgan, like just go online and like Google higher view questions for JP Morgan. Like you will see a lot that will help you to prep. Now, in terms of the actual like higher view interview itself, so like you said, like it's one way, it's just a programmed like recorded kind of like session. So like you get on this, like one thing to notice, just because it's a computer interview does not mean you should treat it as one. So you need to treat it like an actual interview, like you're actually talking to someone. It's like it's AI that evaluates it, and like AI is able to like pick from your voice, like, is this person sounding confident? You can be saying nonsense, to be honest. Like I said, a lot of people don't watch it. You can be saying nonsense, like, do you come across as like just being confident? Like the way you're speaking, like, are you just speaking like monotone, like just going like one direction, like, or are you trying to like speak like you're engaging like with the say robots that is asking you questions, like, are you speaking like you're engaging with that? Are you making eye contact? Like that's also another thing. Like a lot of people, like just because there's no human being there, like some people like have notes somewhere that they're reading off of, and like you're not making eye contact. Like it's analyzing that. It's weird how much AI has developed. Like they can tell when you're looking into the camera and like when you're not. So that's another thing. So you're treating it as an actual interview. And I know for a couple of them, like it depends on the bank, but like a couple of banks give you, like they set it up in a situation where you can re-record. So like it's not the first recording that has to get sent. And then for JP Morgan, for example, they give you like two options. So like you record the first one. If you're not fine with it, then you can redo for same question, you can redo a second one. So for me, what I did was when I did my own process, like when the question first get asked, like you get a couple of seconds to think. For me, like the few seconds may not be good enough. So like what I do is the first recording, I use that to like collect my thoughts. I may not even say anything, or I may say things, but like I'm just using that to like think about like the answer to that question. And then the second recording is where actually I give my answer and then submit that. Now that's tricky because I've seen some people try to use that and then they mistakenly send in the first answer that they probably were not saying anything or they were just saying rubbish. So like you just have to be very, very careful with that. But again, like I said, treat it like an actual interview, like you actually like interviewing with someone, answer the question to the best of your ability, even if you don't know the answer to it. Say something and just say it confidently and send it. It's a robot that is listening. They're not evaluating your answer, they're just evaluating how you're responding. So that's typically what's going to be like my advice for higher view. Then the other processes, I don't know about the one you're going through, but I know for JP Morgan, for example, they made us do like pymetrics, like psychometric kind of assessments. Again, go on Quora, go on Reddit. There are a lot of resources out there. Just learn from people like from their own experience. And then a lot of it is not super, super hard, but like there's just some silly mistakes that you might make, like when you're making the assessments that, and again, at that stage, it's still AI that evaluates it. Like AI will just cut you off because you just feel like if and we've complained about this like a lot. Like you see people that actually puts in a good interview, like take those assessment and they're actually good, but just because maybe they don't come across as confident or for some reason, like internet might even be bad, which is another thing. And you probably like did not just put in your best because of that. AI just like feels like, oh, this person did not put in an effort and just like cuts you at that stage. So the thing is just try to first of all like research, see what's out there that you can learn from, and then just take those assessments and take them as confidently as you can. Even if you don't know what you're doing at that point, it's fine. Like just come in and like just be someone that has an opinion and you're able to like talk through that. So that would be my advice. And then once you're getting far along into the process, start reaching out to people, like reach out to people on LinkedIn. You may not always get responses, which is fine. People are busy, like understand that, but like reach out to people like, I see you at this bank that I want to join. Like, can you spare like 15 minutes, talk through your experience, like advise me, or like there's someone you can connect me with? Things like that would definitely help. But yeah, I think that's like going to be my advice for that kind of like a recruiting process.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Yeah. Binga, Adiboye, you're next. You can unmute your mic.
You may be having audio
Can't hear
issues. I
you.
see he's unmuted, but can't hear anything.
Okay. Can Loveth go? Binga will pick you next. Okay. Is your mic? Hello?
Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you now.
No.
Can you talk? Oh, okay, you can send it via chat if you do chats if you're unable to speak. Loveth, can we hear you?
All right, yeah, I can hear you, Akin. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right, good evening. Thank you very much for this opportunity, testimony, and Akin. And it's really nice to have a talk with you, Chikodi. And I have like a couple of questions to ask. First of all, I went through your profile and I saw that you got into KPMG like immediately after NYC, which is one thing that I think it's very interesting and really, really commendable. So some of us are still like at this level. We've not gotten to the level of talking about investment banking and all of that. So what do you think? What can you share about how you were able to get into KPMG? And number two, I know that there will be schools that some Fortune 500 companies or big banks in the US mostly recruit from when it comes to MBA. I'm not sure they recruit, like, I don't know if they recruit from every school. So can you share like your 2 cents about schools that we can look out for, like schools we can actually apply to when we're ready to for us getting an MBA for ourselves. Then number three, kind of like my background is not really in finance. I studied agricultural economics, and I'm currently doing a master's here in Nigeria in the same field, whilst working as a user operations personnel specialist at with Paystack. But I really love finance, and I think this is something that I want to do, like go into finance, like like you said, it's so like I looked into investment banking really, but like, finance is something that I love. I've not done anything around my ICANN or anything like that. So what do you think would somebody like me, what's your advice to somebody like me who is currently at this stage and has not worked in any investment bank or any for companies? What do you think should be my next line of action, or what should I do? What next steps should I take? Thank you.
Yep, all good questions. And lucky for you, it's not just me that has a KPMG experience here. So you can definitely learn from Aki or testimony as well. Getting into KPMG, the first step you need to break through is the typical assessments that they do. So we did like it was GMAT that we did. So we did like GMAT, like it's GMAT screening per se. So you take that, like that's the first level of how they cut you. Now I know the process has kind of like modified a little bit since when I did. I remember speaking with someone and like it's a little bit different. Like for my own experience, like you do the GMAT, and then depending on whatever your score is, you either get like a go or no go at that stage. And then we did like essay writing or something like verbal. And then we did that. And after that, that takes a couple of days, like evaluate. So you go home after doing that. And then we got invited for, first of all, I think we did one psychometric business kind of assessment. I can't remember, but like, yeah, we did something like that. And then you get invited for like an assessment center. Like assessment center is like a case study kind of situation where like you come in, you're like in a group with people, and then you get like, they give you a case to work on, I remember, and then you have to like talk through that. So at that stage, you assign roles, like who is going to be someone taking notes, who's going to be like the timekeeper or things like that. They just want to see how you perform in a team role, like how you perform in a team. So you go through that process of like an assessment center. Like part of it is also like one-on-one kind of interview. So yeah, part of the assessment center process, like you have a time allocated for like you just being in front of like the panel, like just a group of people that are working at KPMG, and then they ask you questions and you respond. So like that's just like an in-person kind of event to just like get a feel for like your person, because like that's the first time you actually start interacting with people at KPMG. The other times like you've been doing like just GMAT and like things online. So you do the assessment center, and then after that, they invite you for an interview. That's if you scale through the assessment center process, you get invited for a partner interview. That's when you interview one-on-one with a partner at KPMG. And then some people, I was one of the lucky people that got invited for a second partner interview. Till today, I don't know why, but for some reason, after my first partner interview, I got invited for a second one, and then I had to do a second interview. And then after that was when like I got the offer, and then had to do medicals and like resume. So it's a more typical kind of process, I would say, at least for my own experience with KPMG. Like you do not have to do so much coffee chat or like networking with like, oh, I need to know plenty of people at KPMG for me to be able to like get a job. Like, oh, I need to start speaking with everybody there. I feel like the most important things you needed to know was, first of all, you need to prep for the GMAT, because that's the place where they cut a lot of people. Like a lot of people try to take that test and people don't get through it. And you can only take it once, which is the sad part. If you take it once and you don't get it the first time, you can't recruit again, because like they say you only take that test once.
I think they now do once in a year.
They've changed it. Oh, that's good. So look at that. So now you can take it once a year. So that's good. So like that's the first thing you probably need to prep for. And it's easy question. It just goes back to like a lot of things you learned in probably like secondary school or something like GMATs, math, and like just asking you all these questions. So like you just need to prep for that. And then you need to also like prepare for the interviews. Like that's also another thing that is a very big part of the process. Like just know something about KPMG, like anything, what's not. Like you should know like the division you're recruiting for, like what they do at least. If you're recruiting for audits, I know some people in audits get asked like some accounting type questions. I didn't get it from like my own tax partner interview, but I know some people that recruited for audits when they had their partner interview, like they got, especially if you have like an accounting background, they got asked like some IFRS type questions, but like just coming in, like having done your research, like something that definitely helps. Um, I can pass it on to Aki or testimony if they want to like add anything from their own experience, like recruiting for KPMG.
Testimony.
Okay, I think you answered the question already. But for me, my own was the same, similar. Wrote the test, math type test. Afterwards, I wrote the essay, and then the business awareness psychometric test. I don't know if they still do that now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the Almighty Assessment Center. Call it Almighty because we're one of just like you, just like yourself. My experience is similar. I never knew about KPMG on NYSC. Yeah, and I don't know. I'm thinking probably it's a school thing because I'm thinking probably it's a school thing, and that's why typically I advise people that maybe people now are luckier because they tend to be more informed. But during my time, I did not know that there was anything like. In fact, I just wanted to be a lecturer. That's cool. That was the only thing at the point. In fact, that was the most prestigious job for myself. But it was until one of my seniors who happened to know about it at NYC told me he was working in KPMG. I was like, what is this? What does that mean? That was when I like went for the test. I applied. It was even the one that told me to apply. I applied, and I remember getting the invite. I had to go night course from the east. I was in the east in my NYC to write the test. So that's typically the stage. And again, to just add color to some of the things in context about what Chikodi has said. Typically, you don't need to like have everything figured out right now. Yeah, you should be comfortable with uncertainty. Don't put it like that. I know it might sound like kind of controversial, but even though you don't have everything figured out, the best thing you have in your front, just working, doing the best you can at that point in time. This information you have now, some of you might be in school. So I think it's very important to note that I don't know how some people will take this, but you are already disadvantaged coming from this part of the world. We just have to be realistic about it. So you just have to make the best of your situation. Still in school, get a very good CGPA. It's very important. Maybe a lot of stress. At least it will just make you stand out as much as
4.0 and above.
Yes, if you can, just get it done. Because I know some people that said that even when they were recruiting for KPMG, it was a criteria. I know some persons said that. I don't know how true it is, but I just know that human beings, we are typically very subjective. We tend to want to like judge you. We have a very short period of time to even judge you. So once somebody reach out to me and the person tells me that I got a first class 4.9, I most likely want to talk to that person, that somebody that tells me that I got like, you understand? It's not like a judge on your academic performance, but essentially just saves me a lot of time. So at best, do what you can in this beginning and get. Another thing again is start preparing for those GMAT type questions while you're in school, or maybe during your NYSC, and start preparing for those things. They typically tend to be like a lot of companies use it. A lot of companies, even though you're not going into finance, you're going into another industry, a lot of companies use that, especially for like entry-level person. So it helps a lot. For some of you that already know about investment, but like Emmanuel, once you said that you knew about investment banking when you are in study, I was like, wow, and you are really good. Like you are that's really good. That's really good. Because I myself, I knew I did not know about investment banking until I got into KPMG. It was when I was in KPMG, I knew that there was anything like investment banking. So this opportunity is really cool. So just make the best of this information you're getting for yourself. You can start taking points and taking steps, as we have already known. I think just make the best of your situation. If you're a student, get a good certificate. You are currently working, you can start gathering that experience and probably prepare an MBA, if possible. If you think you want to get your first job in investment banking, and look through some investment banking like companies in Nigeria, like at least that can give you some leverage. Don't get in from there, you go the MBA route. So for me, I think it's just a case of maximizing your opportunity. Yeah, so just wanted to put that there. I don't know if I answered all the questions asked.
Yep.
Yeah. So Chikodi, it was really nice. It was really nice speaking with you. And
let me try.
Chikodi hasn't,
let me try and
yes,
touch
hasn't
on
finished.
Lovett's second question. I think you asked just briefly. I think you asked a question about like schools. If you're thinking of what school would be best for you to apply to, like if you're looking at investment banking. So one thing that business schools do, they put out like an employment report, which is like a report of like their graduates and like where they eventually ended up in. It's publicly available. Like any school you Google in the US, like for MBA programs specifically, like their employment results report, you always see it. So you can use that as a basis. Like just look at the employment report. If it's one that you see that they have students going into your dream bank, whatever bank it is, then you know that, oh, at least this school must have something like a structure in place to help prep you. It's like that's a good way to know like which schools would be good for you to apply to. And I think you also asked a question about your situation, like just coming out of NYSC, trying to do your master's. Like it's going to be that same route. If you're done with your master's, if you want to do investment banking, like Testimony said, like it's either you start like investment banking. If you want to do directly, it's either you start like investment banking in Nigeria or investment banking anywhere, and then use that to break into investment banking in the US. Like that's going to give you like the edge. Or you can think of like an MBA after. I know it's hard, like too many schools, MBA after master's is like just duplicates kind of like program, but like that's just like the typical way you can think about like transitioning.
Yeah. Just to add to what Chikodi and Testimony have said. Oh, I had three partner interviews, so I think I
look
had
at that,
the
and I thought
record.
mine was
Yes.
bad.
Yes, I did.
Wow.
I had 2 interviews with Tayo and Ogumberu. And one of the reason why I had my second interview with him was because the first interview I was a bit, and that's still coming back to the thing about confidence and all. It was not because I was not confident, but also the fact that, you know, in terms of trying to create relationships or communicate with him, it was more like I was preparing for the job and not getting to show my human side or getting to connect with who I am, and also you wanted to see the other side of me, the personal side of me, and who I was outside trying to get a job, where I'm from, and just getting to know who I was. And you know, it told me to come for a second interview, which then led to the final interview. So always just being open, getting to like I said, from your coffee chats, you can imagine just having to network, getting to know people, relate, interact, and all. It just helps a lot.
Yeah.
I know in Nigeria, I have a bit of knowledge of invest, and I know they typically recruit more from NYSC. But if you are, I mean, like they typically like retain coppers who work with them. So even getting in as a copper is like a big thing. But even I know you can still get in afterwards. It's usually a bit slimmer, but if you're considering the MBA route, that's also a good option as well. And also you could still get in directly, maybe through the CFA. Yes, they also consider people who are you know, who have done the CFA option as well, like completed that. So that's also another route that you could explore if you are looking at investment banking. But yeah, And if it's also the other areas, it doesn't have to be a big four. That's another thing too in finance. It doesn't have to be a big four. You could get into a tech company who needs a finance associate, and from there you learn, or you get into, it doesn't have to necessarily be, I mean, the big four, yes, has that platform to help you build and scale, but it could also come through a non-conventional, through industry, going into a booth and grow your way through there, do 1-2 years, and maybe then look for a master's or an MBA, or then look for a bigger platform to amplify your learning experience as you scale.
Yeah.
That's also relevant. Yep. So any other questions?
I think there's a question.
I think one came in the chat.
Okay. Thank you so much for the enlightening session. I wish I'd got this earlier. I could have eased the interview much more and made them more attractive to them. The recruiter had listed a thing they look out for in a candidate, which included competency and analytical skill. Can you suggest how and where I could build the analytical skills required in IB, please? Thank you.
That's a very good question. And I think testimony brought this up. Like, the first thing people look at is, what's this person's GPA? You come in, like, you have a good GPA, you have a stellar GPA. Like, if I see someone that got 4.8, 4.9, like testimony, I would probably think, oh, this person is very smart. They probably have analytical skills, but I don't want to limit it to that. So there have been, it's hard, but there have been some people that with 2.2, they're able to get into investment banking. And you know what has to happen? If you have a 2.2 or even a third class, for example, you know that you need to present another evidence that you, I don't want to say you are smart, but like that's just what it is. Like you just need to present another evidence that you're smart. And there are a lot of ways to do that. So like if you're done with the university, like you can't change your GPA, it is what it is. Say you graduated with a 2.2, for example, take the GMAT. If you take the GMAT and you get a very good score with the GMAT, that's also another testament to the fact that, oh, maybe something just happened with this person in the university and that's why they got this low GPA. But like I can see from their GMAT that they're actually smart. Or like Akin said, like do the CFA. If you're able, now CFA is not compulsory. Like for me, for example, I'm never going to think about doing the CFA. But like if you think that you just need some additional evidence to just prove to people, and sadly, like that's just the world we live in. Like you just have to prove that you are smart to people before they even start talking to you. If you think that you're in a position where you need additional evidence, even if it's just level 1, take the CFA, like pass it. So somebody is looking at your resume, they see, oh, this person got a second class lower, but oh, this person has passed like 2-3 levels of CFA. Okay, they're probably smart. Like maybe something just happened in the uni. So for like to your question, like analytical skill, that's the first evidence that people look out for, like whether this person has an analytical skill. Like what's your GPA, what's your GMAT score, what's other professional exam, ICANN, CFA, whatever that you've done and you've passed. That's the first level. And now another thing beyond that is, like I said, like business, I'm going to talk about business school, like that's the typical route. Business school try to prep you. So like no matter what your background is, you need to get finance and accounting knowledge. Like you can't escape that. Like you need to have it. So like when you're having like interviews, when you're having coffee chat, people just slot it in here and there. Like just try to test, does this person even, like somebody can ask, it can be a very, very simple question, like walk me through the 3 statements, like the 3 accounting statements. Like can you walk through, like, do you have a knowledge about how they are linked? Like, how does the statement of like profit and loss link to cash flow? Like things like that. Like you just need to have like some basic understanding. So like that's where analytical skills come in. Then nobody really, really expects you to come in being a model wizard. Like, oh, you can model everything in this world. No, but like you should have, and again, this is another thing business will help you do. You should have some basic modeling like background. Like you just know how to link this to link that to calculate something. You know, somebody asks you, okay, what is like equity value? This may fly over your head at this point, but like something like that, like what is equity value? How does equity value link to enterprise value? You should be able to like build that bridge. Okay, you need to add this, you need to subtract this. Like that's where analytical skills come in. Now, a lot of what you do on the job, you learn on the job. Like you come in, every bank has like a training platform. They train you because they know that you don't know what you're doing, and that's fine. As long as you're willing to learn, you get trained, and then you start learning like, oh, this is how to put together a model. You start learning like the very, very different variations of like you're doing like a discounted cash flow model, for example. This is how you can repurpose it for this particular client that has a very specific financial position, like things like that. You start learning on the job. So like from the recruiting, like just coming in, the first things you need to get very clear to like show your analytical skills are like your GPA, your GMAT or whatever, or your ICANN or like CFA or whatever you can take to just prove that like you have some sort of analytical skills. And then also like the basic finance and accounting knowledge that you come in with. So I hope that answers the question about analytical skills.
Thank you.
Yep.
Cool. Okay. Who was the person that asked that question? Jim? Yeah, I hope that answers your question. Once again, we've had about 1 hour 30 minutes with Chikodi, learning a lot from her, and yeah, it's been a learning experience. I'm even considering maybe joining IB now for more
Sure,
things.
come. There is space for you.
Yeah, so yes, it's been exciting just learning a lot about your journey and your experience, and picking career choices and all. What I want to ask one question. I mean, I just remembered this question. When like everyone had like this job fantasy. I mean, almost everyone. You had like when you're small, what was like your I want to be this when you're
when I was a child.
Yes.
I jumped from one thing to it is very, very weird. There was a time I wanted to be a doctor, which for some reason, I don't know why. The time I wanted to, I thought about 1 million things. I wanted to be an actress at some point. Like I thought and dreamt about a lot of things, but I feel like my doctor phase lasted a long period of time before I eventually came out of it. I'm like, no, science is not for me. Like that was my dream job when I was much younger, but here we are today. Nothing remotely related to doctor.
Quite interesting. Yeah. I mean, and it's good you're happy, I mean, doing what you do. And yeah, even though
I'm happy for now. I'll say for now. So one thing you should know is for a lot of people, investment banking is just a stepping stone into something. Like I mentioned, like there are a lot of exit opportunities with investment banking. A lot of people come in not wanting to do long term, and that's something I'm still evaluating. I don't know if this is something I want to do long term, but for now, like for sure, it's fun. But for some people, they just come in like, oh, I'm just going to do 3-4 years, get the experience, go somewhere else. It's like that's just how it is.
So I guess that's why
for now.
I guess that's why they drill you. Like I guess that's
exactly
the long hours more. So if you're looking at like your next industry, I won't ask career now, just industry. What's it going to be?
I mean, I've thought about private equity. It's to give some background, private equity is sort of similar to investment banking, but it's different in the sense that private equity does a lot of buy side. So like private equity firms have like they have money to invest in companies. And so a lot of what they're doing is just looking for companies to invest in. So like that's what you're doing. Instead of like you're not working for clients at that point, you're working for like the company.
Yes.
So like that's definitely something I've thought of. I've thought of just like going or maybe like taking a CFO role somewhere, just doing that. So like things I've thought about. Like right now, I don't have a planned strategy, but like I've just considered it's either going to be private equity or maybe just taking a CFO role somewhere. But we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, we're looking forward to that. Yeah.
Yep.
Good talk so far. Good talk. Just want to thank you for your time and to everyone who has asked questions, to all the contributions, just want to say thank you. Thank you. And I'm sure, how are they going to connect? You can connect to her through LinkedIn. Testimony would, yeah.
Okay.
We can connect.
I'll say something.
So,
Sure.
okay. Yes.
Okay,
So testimony.
Chikodi, it was nice speaking with you today. I really appreciate you honoring this invitation. I just wanted to say this so that everyone here is going to understand. Chikodi here was not easy. So guys, you have to be able to embrace this opportunity and make sure that you maximize it. So just to add to what has been said so far, a lot about everything we've been doing is just maximizing your opportunity. That's it. No matter how little what you have in your hand is, maximize it. For me, I'm a firm believer of it's not about what you have, it's about what you do with what you have. So if you are in school, maximize the opportunity. If you're serving, maximize the opportunity. If you are in a firm, in a company, maximize the opportunity, because at the end of the day, that's what counts. When you are having this, what that thing does for you is that it makes it very interesting when you're having a conversation. And I think when you're having these coffee chats, these things tend to come out. For myself, I don't know for other people, when I'm interviewing a candidate, I tend to want to ask them some questions about sometimes their project topics. And I find the people I find most interesting are not even people that come from traditional backgrounds, are people like maybe somebody, like you mentioned, actress, maybe an actor. There was a person I saw that said she was driving horses. She was training horses in a farm. Yes, I found that very interesting. It was quite exciting for me. And when she talked about her experience, that was really mind-blowing. That this person actually has a reason why they are doing what they are doing. And you tend to start building connections. And then the essence is that you have to be likable at first. That's the truth. Once you are likable, people can now start making excuses for you. But your experience, maximizing your experience now is what's now built that thing from your analytical and other skills. And again, I just wanted to mention again, Chikodi is a wizard in finance. She's a wizard in finance. I just had to do that. Yeah, she was the best in Nigeria for the ICANN exams. I think both foundation and this. But I don't know why you don't want to come and collect the title. Just come and collect the title for everything. She was the best in the ICANN exam across the country. So anything she's saying, you have to take it and make it that you're taking it from off. So you can connect with her, but we're having her again maybe on Wednesday to give us more details about investment banking for those that are in her house. You can also connect with her on LinkedIn, and she's a very busy person. So in case you don't get an immediate response, you can reach out to me. And so thank you very much again for this.
Sure.
And we look forward to inviting you again for other sessions later in future.
Sure.
All right. Any final words for us?
Live in the moment. I'll say that and I think you touched on this, no matter what you're doing, just do the best you can do and just leave the rest. Enjoy, no matter the situation. I feel like you get to a point in life where you look back and you're like, everything I've done has led me up until this point. So it may not be easy at this point in time, but you're eventually going to get there. So don't stress. Just look on the bright side of things. Life is too short though. I tell people they say, life is too short. No matter what it is you're doing, just in that position, look on the bright side, live your life and just be happy and just know that the future is going to work out eventually.
Yeah.
Yep.
You mentioned something before. About what you preferred about KPMG. You didn't finish it. The tax, what you preferred in tax.
What I preferred in tax?
Compared to IB.
Oh, I've said it now.
Yes.
Tax does not have so much long hours compared to IB, for sure. What else? I don't know. I feel like there wasn't a lot of work. When I was doing tax, I thought it was a lot of work, but compared to now, I feel tax was probably not so much work. But it was definitely a good foundation. It definitely gave me a lot of the things I learned when I was doing tax, learning to understand financial statements are still things I use now. So it definitely gave me like a very good, strong foundation. Yep.
Yep. So enjoy the moments and
yes, for sure.
Learn. Someone asked for your LinkedIn handle. I believe is your name.
It's just my first name and last name.
Exactly. So you've gotten it. Chikodi
I'm
Etike.
probably the only person that has that name in this world, because my last name is a very unique name. So that's just
okay.
My LinkedIn name.
So search for our connect.
Yeah. Like feel free to connect. Like I get a ton of messages. Like I may not respond to you as quickly as you want. Like I don't go on LinkedIn always, but like feel free to message me. Like I try, because I get messages from all over. I try, if I see like the person's a Nigerian by their name, I try to like respond and like maybe we can talk. But if I don't, like feel free to go through testimony. Like I'm happy to like talk to you if I know you from someone I know, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Testimony, you have anything to say?
So that's all. So guys, it was nice. Thank you for gracing this occasion. Chikodi, thank you very much for coming here. I will look forward to meeting you again and connecting with you again. So enjoy the rest of your day. I know it's pretty early now. This weekend.
Yes,
and
I'm actually on the Pacific time zone now. So like we started this around like 7 a.m., which is nice because I had a late night flight.
Oh.
But it's all good.
All right. Okay, it's all good. All right. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank
Speak
you.
again. Bye-bye.
Sure. Bye.